And talking about freedoms, China is notorious for curbing them. The Communist Party controls everything in China, from what you say to what you eat to how many children you have. From the late 1970s, China had a one-child policy, one child per family. They stuck with it for nearly 4 decades. But the one-child policy was a stopgap strategy. It would never have worked in the long run, and that's exactly what's happened. China's population is aging. It does not have young people to man its factories or join its army. Beijing's grand idea to solve this crisis is another flawed policy. The 3-child policy. That's what they've come up with. Chinese couples are now allowed by the government to have 3 children. But here's the problem. People in China don't want a second child, let alone a third. Here's why.
How do you look at population? As mouths to feed? As hands in a factory? Or as men behind the trigger? For China, it's all of the above. In the late 1970s, population was China's ticking time bomb. There were too many mouths to feed. But instead of making more food, China purged population growth. They enacted the infamous one-child policy. It was like slapping a band-aid on a bullet wound. Neither the economics nor the demography checked out. Decades later, this is the result. Look at the numbers. The median age has risen from 36 in 2015 to 38 in 2020. At this rate, it will be 40 years by 2025. Nearly 13.5% of the population is above 65 years. They need younger people to support them. But China wants all hands on deck. It needs more people manning the factories. So, what's the solution? A baby boom. In 2016, China announced a 2-child policy. No luck. Birth rates continued to plummet. So this time, Beijing has gone a step ahead. They have announced a 3-child policy. Some obvious flaws here. If couples don't want a second child, how and why will they think about a third? The Chinese need incentives to have bigger families. Right now, they have none. Chinese millennials put in 72 hours a week at work. Inflation is slowly eating into their savings. The housing market is too hot to touch. So a third child is simply not a practical choice for them.
The aging population is a social issue, but the social pressure for the young generation is even worse. After they give birth to children, the pressure is even greater in education and employment. It's a matter of personal choice.
Women in China have fought hard for this choice, but the state still looks at them as a demographic tool, one that can be regulated to suit their economic goals. With this 3-child policy, it promises to be more of the same.
It's mostly women bearing the responsibility of raising children, for the most part. And the society hasn't provided women with much support. So actually, if men could do more to raise the child, or if families could give more consideration for women who had just had children, actually a lot of women would be able to have a second child.
Conditions are not suitable for a baby boom in China, but Beijing doesn't just need workers, it needs triggermen. The Chinese army recruits hundreds of thousands of soldiers every year. The result of this multi-front aggression, more conflicts mean more soldiers. You cannot sustain the world's largest standing army with a falling birth rate. China's 3-child policy is destined to fail. Beijing looks at its people and it sees numbers, statistics, not people with dreams and ambitions. and no amount of propaganda or coercion can change this. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.